Hi, I'm Vicky Widdings. I'm a qualified careers practitioner and a careers leader in a school, and I also run my own business, which is Careers Leader Consultancy. The video you're going to watch next is some top tips to support careers leaders or teachers that have got some kind of additional careers responsibility or interest in careers, around hopefully understanding the careers guidance process a little bit more and hopefully helping them to implement in their own educational settings careers guidance in a really meaningful and positive way. As a careers leader, you've probably got lots of additional responsibilities in school as well as your careers role. So I really wanted to just give this little video clip for you that hopefully will make you think about some of the things that, if you haven't got in place already, it might be useful for you to think about to maximise the time that you've got with a qualified careers guidance practitioner in your school. So number one, it would be around how you kind of select your students for it. So some schools are very fortunate that you have got enough advisor capacity and time to be able to deliver what we used to call in the careers world blanket interviews, which means that everyone in a year group gets a careers guidance appointment regardless of their situation. So if that isn't the case, then I think it's important that you look at how you are selecting students for that guidance time, because it is a precious resource that you've got. There's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can send out questionnaires to the students to help assess, who's got a firm plan in place and who hasn't, and to sort of look at who might benefit further from early careers appointments or not. You can obviously look at vulnerable risk factors. So obviously any students with an EHCP will obviously need to be seen as a priority. That's an education and healthcare plan, if you're not aware. And it would also be worth you having a chat to lots of other individuals in the school, such as your SENCO and people in charge of maybe gifted and talented, and heads of year or heads of house, or however your pastoral system is set up. But they will know those year groups as well to help you identify which of the students that may need that little bit of extra support or early intervention or extra guidance capacity if you've got it. But thinking about how you select your students is really important, and thinking about the rationale behind that as well. And what I would say is making sure you've got a really strong recording system, that if Ofsted were to come in, or a senior leader team or your governors come in and question that, you can demonstrate how you've selected those students for that interview. So I have a system where you can red, amber, green code some of the young people, so you can kind of look at a system in place and decide who you think will benefit from some of those interventions over others. So I think it's also around thinking about the logistics. So as your careers leader, you need to think about where those interviews are going to happen. Will the students be aware of them? Will they know where to go? And they sound like really basic things, but actually if you've got an advisor in only one day a week, then it's you really need to maximise the time that you've got with them. So making sure that the students turn up for their appointment times. And that kind of brings me to my next point, which is around like communication, and that's not just between you and the student, or that's about thinking about how people, if you have slips for the appointments, a teacher's going to know who's in their lessons and who isn't. Do heads of house, do heads of year need to know who's having their guidance appointments? So it's about that whole school communication. And don't forget parents as well. Like, it's important that they know that their child is going to have a careers guidance appointment at some point, and potentially be offered the opportunity to come in on some of those appointments, or know that you're going to be there at parents' evenings, or where they can get that additional career support if they want to. So thinking about all of those things, about that communication and making sure it's really transparent. It's really helpful, I think, for students to have to be prepared for that interview, to make the most of their time, and I've done another little video clip about that, so that they really can be prepared, because often in a very busy curriculum, that guidance time can be squeezed quite small. I mean, my advice would really be that a guidance appointment would need to be 45 minutes to an hour, but I know that isn't always possible. But if it is significantly shorter than that, then you need to make sure that the children and the students are getting as much pre-work done as possible, so that again the time that they have got with the guidance worker is being spent in the right way, and using the skill set that advisor has to draw out the really more detailed aspects of guidance when they've got it. I'll talk about action plans as well, because I think that's really important. And as the careers leader, you've got a responsibility towards making sure that, for one thing, that action plan under the GDPR rules has to be stored for 7 years somewhere. So thinking about your systems of data collection and storage, and who's going to see that action plan, who needs to see that to make it meaningful. Is it electronic? Is it paper-based? I mean, I would say that nowadays pretty much all action plans really need to be electronic in order to make sure that the storage that I've mentioned before can be met. And also it makes it much easier to be emailed out to tutors or to parents, and to make that action plan a really living document that actually the student and the children are going to be able to actually use and return to and refer to. Plus, if you send it electronically as well, all the links to the internet sites are all live as well, so it's more likely that they are going to be able to click into those easily and be able to use them. But however you're storing and getting your action plans to be written, it is important that, again, you've got a system in place that makes it clear why you're doing it the way you're doing it, and that works for you and the students in your school and your school as a whole. Finally, and it's probably the most important, I would say, is like your monitoring and your evaluation. So making sure that you've got some really concrete data of the impact of that guidance. If you're struggling to get and secure funding for guidance in the school and make it a priority, then the more data that you've got to show the benefits and the impact it's having on the students in the school, obviously, the better for you. So there's, again, a variety of different ways of doing this. I've seen iPads with just the smiley faces done, SurveyMonkey surveys, paper questionnaires and samples, little mini focus groups to get some feedback. But if you are paying for a service from an external careers company, or if you're even employing someone directly, it's important that as a senior leader or as a careers leader, you actually are getting quality for that investment. So don't be afraid to ask to sit in on some of those guidance appointments, even if that's not your area of expertise. And that's part of the reasons why I wanted to make these videos, is to give you some confidence in that role. So go and sit in on some, see what you think. Speak to the student before, speak to the student after. See if you can identify some of the learning that they've taken place in, or some of the process they went through during that guidance session. And I really hope that it will inspire you to recognise that the value in careers guidance in school and why it's really important. Thanks.